It's a good day.
All right, so obviously you guys joining once again. Always appreciate it. This is big for, Joe and I doing this podcast. We started this in June. We finally have got it onto Zoom. People can see our faces. So I guess without that, let's
So now we can know if everything's working out.
Yeah. Pretty better or worse. Yeah. So where do you guys, we got a lot to talk about. We were going to do this Friday, and some things came up on my end and then everybody else's end, and then it was Thanksgiving this weekend here in Canada, so it was
right.
tricky.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Jake.
People across the border.
And then today worked out perfectly, so it was hard for us. We wanted to do a podcast Friday, right? Like, Neil, you and I were talking about doing it Friday, but
yep.
We just kept making so many moves. Like Fitzgerald, it seemed like just wouldn't go to bed. So
yeah,
I was like, all right.
Do you think the GM cares that we podcasted on Friday?
Not really. But it was just, we just kind of waited till it kind of calmed down a bit before we got started. So I guess we're I
mean, we can't be. We're not fully safe because it's only 7:00, and since every move has been at like 9 p.m. or later, we don't know. We don't know.
There could be something that happens during this podcast.
I mean, we're already hearing that possibly Fitzgerald is still working on something else. What he did with Andreas Janssen, I don't really know what exactly that is. But if I were to guess, I'm going to throw a really, really crazy one out there. I think the Devils are trying to get Max Pacioretty from Vegas. Pacioretty's name has been thrown around, and other than Nate Schmidt, because obviously we just found out just as we jumped on here that Alex Pietrangelo is officially signing with Vegas, which I don't think anybody here would say that they're surprised by that. I think that was coming. I think we knew that. Nate Schmidt is going to be somebody that they're going to have to move. And Pacioretty's name was thrown out as well. He has a pretty, not a hefty contract, but a pretty sizable one, something like $5.5 million, I think.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
Contracts, but like the length was never good with the Pacioretty contract. But when it comes to AAV with Max Pacioretty, his cap hit has never been like a cap hit. You're like, okay, like I have to stay away from Max Pacioretty because that cap hit is bad.
Yeah. They're definitely going to have to move someone because it looks like Vegas gave let me check my phone, but I think they gave Pietrangelo
7 years, 8.8.
Yeah, per year.
Yeah. Where is that money coming from?
Well, they're going to, someone's on the move. A couple people probably.
At least 3 or 4, maybe even 5 guys are on the move. I mean, first of all, Marc-Andre Fleury is going to have to get moved somehow. Yeah. And unfortunately, Vegas has waited too long because most of the goalies that were on the free agent market have already been picked up. A lot of I don't know where he's going.
Yeah, I'm not really sure either. Nate Schmidt he was supposedly traded to the Panthers yesterday, and then he was not traded to the Panthers. So
that was weird.
So I don't know what's going to happen there. They're definitely going to have to do something here in the next, a few days to get the money for Pietrangelo. So it'll be interesting to see if the Devils they decide to get into talks with Vegas. I could see maybe a couple players that interest them.
I know they were also thinking about moving Jonathan Marchessault as well.
Marchessault would be pretty great. I mean,
I got another one.
You can score.
What about Riley Smith?
I love Riley Smith.
Alex Tuck?
I'm not that. I like Riley Smith better than Tuck.
It would be great to get either one of those, but I just don't think Vegas is going to be willing to give up them unless they.
Yeah, I agree there too.
Unless they're in a situation where they have no choice.
Yeah, I agree.
Here's where they're right at the cap with $1.8 million left, and they're going to have to move somebody. They may have to move like at least 3 guys. Like Toronto's already made a bunch of moves. These guys are going to make even more moves with the way the cap for them is even strict.
Right, and Toronto's at something like what 700,000 on the cap, and they're still having to make moves. So I think that Fitzgerald, the reason why he said today, and he said several times why he's been super patient, is because he understands that a lot of teams are going to have to make drastic moves over the next couple of weeks. and he's just waiting everything out and see what's going on. And then you also heard that he's not averse to giving up prospects either. So that kind of puts you in a situation where you say, well, that puts us in rumors with basically any big name player that's out there in the trade market. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that means that all of a sudden the Devils are back in the Patrick Laine discussion. I mean, Laine's name's kind of died down over the last couple of, pretty much the last week, I would say, because I haven't heard anything about anybody calling. I think teams have given up on Patrick Laine. I even think the Flyers have given up. I don't think they're interested anymore, or they probably just feel like the price is just too much considering the situation. But I think it just depends on what exactly Fitzgerald wants. I don't know if Andreas Johnsson is going to be that top 6 winger that we were talking about, or that the Devils said that they were trying to get. I don't have a problem with him being a top 6 winger because I think he would do well, regardless whether he played on the first or second line. But I think they still need to get a top 4 defenseman, and I still think they need to get another top 6 winger. But it all just depends on what's available and what Fitzgerald can do.
Yeah, like for goodness sakes, like last year, you look at Hughes and a couple of other young guys, are super fleet of foot. Johnsson brings that speed and dynamic, like a little bit scoring touch to like a second and first line, and he was kind of shackled in Toronto with that kind of play, and I believe he could complement a Jack Hughes' speed. And I was talking to someone about foot speed being the problem last year, like Wayne Simmons, Rooney, or Hayden with Hughes really brought down the speed level of that third line, which to me was just laughable. And I'm glad that, Hines is not our coach anymore. Mm-hmm. And I'm much happier now that Lindy Ruff is our guy. And Mark Recchi spoke last night on another podcast we all know, good friends of the show, actually. And I said it was a fresh breath of salt air to have Mark Recchi talking about these important things about these individual players.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you brought up Lindy Ruff, because I think, we've seen Andreas Johnsson, he did well. He kind of struggled, it seemed, under Sheldon Keefe, kind of a new coach, but it seemed like under a veteran coach, Mike Babcock's been around the league a long time. He got the best, it seemed, out of Andreas Johnsson, because 2 years ago, Andreas Johnsson put up 20 goals. I mean, yeah. Mind you, he was also playing with, Marner and Tavares and Austin Matthews, which is also good. I got a bunch of buddies who are Leafs fans, and they have said, he's going to be in a grinder role, and he's speed, but he's inconsistent. But if you put him with the skilled players, he'll succeed, which is good. But I mean, he could come in and do really well on our first and second line. Mm-hmm. I think is obviously what we want, because we want players playing with Nico and Jack to help them take their games to the next level. I think we have no question that Nico's going to do it. It's just a matter of when. And Jack Hughes, as they say, put on as much muscle as he has. He can step up to the plate here next season and definitely the season after, but they got to get players to play around him. But when all is said and done, we still got question marks going into next offseason. Palmieri's due for a contract extension here. Gusev's due for a contract extension here. Blackwood and Bratt's going to get done. It's just a matter of when it gets done. Those ones kind of get pushed to the back burners, it seems, until you figure out what other moves you've made, till you know what's going on. It'll get done. I assume Blackwood's going to be a bridge deal. I don't know if it'll be a long-term contract just yet. I could see them going the long-term route, because they seem to do that with their young guys. And then that way, it brings the AAV down a bit. Yep. But when all is said and done, when this team's contenders and stuff, and you've got Alexander Holtz playing in the lineup and Dawson Mercer and stuff like that, are we going to be sitting here again saying, Andreas Jansson's on our second line or our first line, at that point, when we're contending, I hope, for me, you have Andreas Janssen playing on your third line, adding even more scoring to your bottom six on your third line. And then you have your guys up at the top that are, filling the net and stuff, like your Nolan Foots and, your Holtzes, your Mercers, and, whoever else steps up to the plate. But, that's where I am. I got thinking about the Palmieri thing again today. And, they have – Alex has mentioned, and he's spot on here. He has time. Like, Fitzgerald has time. Like, he's got till the deadline, basically, of next season to make a decision on Palmieri. But where I'm at is if he's not signed close to the deadline, trade him. Get something for him like you did with Hall and, bring more assets back in to help us keep moving this process along. But I also got thinking about it, and I was like, if we do sign Palmieri to a 4 or 5 year extension, it's not the worst thing in the world, because when Holtz is coming in and, he's finally going to be hitting his prime and stuff at 25 or 26, then Palmieri will probably be starting to, fizzle out and move on as he's getting older. But if Holtz comes in at 20 or 21 or even 19, and you have Palmieri and Holtz as your two right wingers in your top six, the Devils are looking pretty good on the right side there for their top line. So, that's where I'm at. And I think that's where Lindy Ruff will come in. He did obviously great things for Danny Briere when he went over to Buffalo when he was with Phoenix back in the day. And he took those young Sabres players to a whole new level there. They were pretty unstoppable. And I think it was 06 and 05 and 06. They had back-to-back runs to the conference finals. And then they had a young team in 99. Obviously, Hasek kind of helped carry them there. There's no doubt in his talent. But that just shows you the kind of coach that Lindy Ruff is. Like, he brought the best out of Klingberg, Sagan, and Ben. He can clearly do it with Hischier and Hughes. So, that's where I stand. I don't know what you guys think on that, but
yeah, I think from just looking at between Andreas Johnson and Lindy Ruff, they're gonna if we're going off what Ruff did with the Stars, it's probably gonna be a more offensive, fast-paced Devils team going forward. And Andreas Johnson's strength is his offense, or at least what he provides at even strength. So if that's the case, I could see him benefiting from playing in an offensive system like Ruff's. It's not to say he's going to be like a 60, 70 point player anytime soon, but 20 goals and maybe 40, 45, even 50 points is not impossible. So the way the team is structured right now, I could definitely see him playing somewhere in the top six, whether it's with Nico or Jack. I think there's a lot of options you can do because Johnson can play both wings. He's not just a left winger. He plays both sides. So I think that'll help a lot as well.
Before whoever's going next, before you guys go, I just want to tell you that Pietrangelo, Stone, Pacioretty, and Fleury make a combined $32.3 million of Vegas's cap space, and Vegas might have. They're going for it, right? So they're in like a win now mode, I guess. But they're $6.9 million, so $7 million over the cap now. And they gave Alex Pietrangelo a full no movement clause at a 7-year contract. Yeah. What is he?
Yeah, so Nate Schmidt's definitely gone because that's
2 years of that contract.
Definitely a contract.
It sounds like they brought down the price intentionally on Schmidt.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
It's definitely a contract, talking about Pietrangelo. It's a contract that Vegas is going to regret within the next 2 years, especially if Vegas is no longer contending and their main core players that you just mentioned are pretty much going to get close to the wrong side of 30. And that's going to be a problem because a lot of these teams in the National Hockey League who are able to make consistent runs deep into the playoffs, one of the things that they have an advantage of is they have a lot of youth. I don't really see a lot of youth with Vegas. I see a lot of veteran experience. I see a lot of talent, no question. And I think that in normal times, they probably would have gotten past Dallas in the conference finals. But when you're facing a team that has all the momentum and has all what I call juju going, there isn't much anything you could really do. And playoff hockey is more predictable than anything else that we've seen. But, Vegas they had no expectations